There's a new book, a haiku journey through the Boundary Waters, Canoe Area Wilderness, and Quetico. It's for children or anyone who loves the outdoors. It's an illustrated haiku journey through the canoe country wilderness. Joining us now to talk more about the Northland Beckons and the illustrated haiku journey is Sandra Hisakuni and Sofia Hisakuni. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. I'm excited to share the story about this book, how it came to be, including the beautiful illustrations that you did in the book, Sofia, and the haikus that you wrote, Sandra, as well. Let's start, though, by talking about the Boundary Waters. And you're in Minneapolis right now while we're talking. I'm up here in Grand Marais. And have you been to the Boundary Waters, Quetico? Do you get up here much? Tell us about your connection to the canoe country.
You start.
I feel like my mom and her partner Mark, they introduced me to the Boundary Waters, and yeah, I think that's kind of how it started for me, going on these trips with my family and really exploring that area. And you guys are kind of the experts, and so I kind of just follow along and help where I can, but I love it up there. And
Yeah.
you've been going there since you were like my age or younger, right?
Well, I started out, I was a student of Cliff Jacobson. Do you know him?
Oh, of course. Everybody knows Cliff Jacobson.
Yes. So he was I believe, my 9th grade science teacher. And in Hastings, they had a program called the Wilderness Experience. And so they would take, I guess it must have been 24, or was it 32 kids up to the Boundary Waters. And so it was a wonderful program. We went in the summer. We had 1 week of kind of training first, and then we had 1 week in the Boundary Waters. And I fell in love with it there. And then I took another trip, and I went to Bemidji State, and I took another trip in college. But then after I moved to Japan, there's no Boundary Waters in Japan. So lots of other beautiful things in Japan. And then when I moved back, and my partner Mark loves exploring the Boundary Waters, so then we started traveling in the Boundary Waters. And I think I was reintroduced in like 2017, maybe, is when we started going to the Boundary Waters in Quetico again.
Okay. And what about it is that you like about the Boundary Waters in this area up here? What draws you here or made you want to do a book about this place where you could have, chosen the metro, and there's plenty of water down in the cities and all over this planet, of course. But why here? Why do you like this place?
Well, for me, it's just you don't get the opportunity to be in an expanse of wilderness and anywhere else in Minnesota, I should say. Just this expansive place, and then it's just quiet. I love paddling. I love paddling. It's just a really calming, well, on a windy day, not so calm, but a calming, wonderful experience. And then each lake you encounter has its own little story to tell. And it's just a peaceful, beautiful place to be.
Yeah. I think my mom was always so good at taking my brother and I outside for adventures. I feel like every weekend we'd always be doing something outside. And my childhood in Japan, we were in a small rural town. So, our house was literally in the middle of rice fields, and we were surrounded by the mountains, ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Just my childhood was so vibrant and alive and beautiful. And I think when I moved to Minnesota when I was 12, it felt very different and almost kind of sterile in a way. I felt like I really lost that nature, outdoor kind of just that feeling of being alive outside and one with nature. So when you and Mark took me to the Boundary Waters, I just felt back at home, I guess. And that was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. So it creates a sense of connection to the natural world. And of course, when we're talking about haiku poems, there's that obvious parallel is that that's typically what a haiku is some sort of reference or connection to the natural world. And that's definitely what takes place in your book, The Northland Beckons, which is available now. Came out in March, so this month in 2024. And it's at bookstores in Minnesota, including in Grand Marais, at Drury Lane, and all over Minnesota. So you can find it there, and we'll add some links to our website at Paddle and Portage. But let's talk about the book itself. Sofia, you did the illustrations, as I said. Sandra, you wrote the haiku, the words in the book, and there's also kind of an explanation or more of a story behind the haikus as well. That's the format. So it's these beautiful illustrations, the poem, and then sort of a narrative of, let's talk a little bit more about what we just described. And it references wildlife, moose, bears, otters, and the lakes themselves and the sky. It's just such a beautiful combination between the illustrations and the use of language. Let's talk about some history of your writing. Sandra, have you done something like this before with a book like this, or just writing in general?
I've always loved writing. Always have loved writing. But never quite had the courage to pursue that until now.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason the haiku came in is, so I'm an English language teacher. So I teach non-native English speakers English, right? And when you broach the subject of poetry, that's always really super overwhelming. But haiku is what, 17 syllables, you anybody can do that. And so it was approachable, and my students really felt proud of themselves if they could produce a haiku. And so while I was paddling, I was always thinking about my students and how I would love for them to experience this as well. And also, it's really hard to take pictures in the boundary waters. If you're somebody like me, the phone has to be in a plastic bag, and another plastic bag, and another plastic bag. So trying to get that phone to take the picture, it's just impossible, right? So then I just started writing haiku, and I would count them out on my paddle. And then when I would get back to camp, I'd write them up and go to sleep. Mm-hmm. And then later, I shared them with Sophie, and she also helped me write a few haiku on some trips that we went on. And then she said, "Mom, I could illustrate these for you." So that's where it started.
Yeah.
And tell us about your experience of illustrating, drawing. I mean, this is like so high level and beautiful.
Thank you. That's so funny. Your story is, I also didn't have the courage, I think, to go after it in college or like get like a formal education around it. I think I was just very like, I'm not cut out for it, or I don't know. I just wasn't there yet, I guess. But I don't know now, like, who cares, I guess. And yeah, just I love drawing. Since I was little, I would say I've always been kind of doodling and drawing and, I don't know, expressing myself that way. So it was just kind of perfect alignment that with your writing, I could just really like visualize these characters. And yeah, it's been such a fun project to work with my mom, and just so special.
Yeah. How did the idea then come to be like, let's partner on this and put this together in this format? Whose idea was it to be like, let's just team up, do this thing, and pitch it? Who's the driving? Who's behind the They're pointing at each other. Maybe it seems.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know. Both of us, I think we've always talked about, we love children's books. Like that's. Like we love them so much, and that's always been a dream of ours since we were, I was little and you were younger, and I don't know, we've been kind of noodling on this idea for like 4 years, so it was like a very gradual, slow process. And then, one day I was kind of like, we're putting a lot of time to this kind of passion project. We should probably kick it into gear and make it kind of official and get out there. So yeah, it's been a long kind of process.
Yeah, she had to light a bit of a fire under me one day.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
She called in because it was my job to figure out how to get this into the world, right? And it's overwhelming, to publish a book for the first time author and that kind of thing. And I was kind of dragging my feet on it. And then she called and she said, "Mom, I feel like I'm wasting my time with you." And it was like, whoa, I never want my child to feel like that they're wasting their time with me.
Sounds like a good editor in the making.
Yes.
Well, because you were like taking classes, you were learning a lot, I feel like I could tell you were dragging your feet and like, I don't know, you just need a little push, I think.
Yes, thank you. You did that very well.
I don't know if I did it well, but
yeah, you did.
Well, something happened that worked because the book is now here. It's available. So you've completed this. And the Beavers Pond Press in the Twin Cities is the publisher. How did they enter the equation and how were they to work with?
Fantastic. Mm-hmm. So I just, I submitted the book to several places and I always got really good feedback. But Beavers Pond was like, anything with a beaver in it, we're working on. So the beaver in this book, and Lily Coyle is amazing. And they have just been so helpful in everything. So I can't recommend them highly enough.
Yeah, they've been super helpful and I don't know, hands-on, but also allowing us to be kind of creative and put our own inputs and just like a perfect balance of helping us, but not like changing our vision or voice, I guess.
And how did they do with your illustrations? Do you feel that those in print and in the hard copy came through in the way that you wanted them to?
Yeah, definitely. I think better than I thought it would look, honestly. We were super happy when we saw the print.
Yeah. It's beautiful. So we're really grateful for that.
All right. And how much did coming to the Boundary Waters play a role in the writing and the illustration? Like, did you make specific trips up to Grand Marais or Ely or into Quetico just for the purpose of doing the book, so to say?
I don't know. We just, it's part of our life to go there. So it's not like we did special trips just for the book. It's just part of our life. But since we were working on the book, then it just made us more cognizant to pay attention to what we were seeing. And especially for Sophie's illustrations. I think like the one on green, she did a really good job. You know how like there's so much life growing in such a small space, all these different plants coming up and I think that was helpful.
I was just going to say that the moss one, like the greenery. Yeah, I think there are some, we went on a trip, 2 years ago?
Maybe.
Was that the last time we went? And we were working on this book. And I think there were some haikus that I could visualize it, but it helped a lot to like go into the setting. And I think you have one about all the greens that you see. And that one, it's just so true in the Boundary Waters. Like all the different shades you see is insane. So kind of seeing that, and then it was a lot easier to draw, I guess, after being in the experience. And
And so what came first, the haikus or the illustrations?
The haikus. Yeah.
And that would be presented to you then, Sophie, and then you would draw based off of that.
Yeah. So it was so fun reading her haikus, going to the Boundary Waters and being like, oh my gosh, like this is literally exactly like the haiku. So that was cool.
Yeah. And the purpose of haiku is it's like your sense of smell. Like if I smell a rose scented lotion, I immediately am brought back to my grandmother. And so the purpose of the haiku is to create a mental image that immediately takes the listener or the reader back to that specific location. So it's that whole Zen philosophy of living in the moment.
Wow, beautiful. I will say that you mentioned, Sophie, there's a lot of greenery. There's not a lot of white in the book. And of course, it's winter in the Boundary Waters now. And for a significant part of the year, was there any thought to, have you ever been up here in the winter, or did you want to add, was that a consideration at all?
I have not been to the Boundary Waters in the winter. So maybe that's my next adventure and book. I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure it's
Yes.
different and beautiful in its own way. Yeah, great idea. Maybe we should do
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
because we are kicking around the next
Mhm.
book. We want to focus on winter. We just haven't landed
Mhm.
on exactly how we want to do that.
Yeah.
So there you go. You're going to be camping at sub-zero
Oh
weather.
gosh.
So our experience doing the podcast for Paddle and Portage and writing stories is, of course, now that we're in it and we've been in it, since like November timeframe, that there's so many beautiful things in the winter that you just can't experience in the summer. I mean, they're both unique and have their own draw, but something about the winter up here, it's my favorite time of year to be in the Boundary Waters is in the winter. And I would love to see that book if you do that. And I hope you do.
Yeah, no, that's a great. Why do you love it so much in the winter? Is there like one specific thing or?
Well, there's a few things. I mean, the solitude, like when we go to lakes that would otherwise be really busy in the summer, there's no one there.
Yeah.
And so there's that aspect of just in deepening that solitude, that experience of that quiet in the wilderness, the challenge of it, of being out there in those temperatures and the weather, the snow, the wind. We have gotten into hot tent camping in a big way. So that's a fun part of adding that challenge, kind of meeting that challenge with some comfort. And then I'm also really big into fishing, as people who follow our company know. And so the ice fishing is just so interesting and fun. Lake trout in the Boundary Waters, it's just this unique, beautiful thing that you can experience in the winter. But it's mostly just the solitude and the challenge of it is what I really like.
Nice.
Hot tent. We could do that.
We could do that. That sounds.
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
Right. Well, Matthew and I would love to be a part of. We'd like to share that experience because it can be intimidating to get started. How do we do this safely is a big thing that I think presents a roadblock. So maybe we'll coordinate something like that.
Amazing.
Oh, that would be super fun.
So fun.
Awesome. Well, the book is out now. And thank you so much for sharing it with me. I really enjoyed reading it. It was a Sunday night, and there was a storm coming in, and it was just, kind of that late March. It's still winter, but it's not quite the same as early winter feeling. And so it just arrived at the best time for me to look at it, and just warmed my heart to see the images and the story. And the book is called The Northland Beckons. It's an illustrated haiku journey through the Boundary Waters and Quetico. It's written by Sandra Hisakuni, and it's illustrated by her daughter, Sophie, who we've been talking with today. I really appreciated this conversation and reading this book. Thanks so much.
Thank you.